Namaskaram, and welcome to the Prabandhams and Stotrams class. We are continuing with periyAzhvAr Tirumuri, specifically the padigam called tanmugattu from Yashoda Bhavam. So Yashoda Bhavam, as I mentioned, is one in which periyAzhvAr assumes himself to be in the role of Yashoda, perhaps the most blessed mother in the world. And he has written a lot of padigams, close to about 250 pasrams, in fact, that are in that Yashoda Bhavam. And this particular one, tanmugattu Chutti, celebrates a particular phase of little Krishna's life. That particular phase is called Ambuli Paruvam. Paruvam means a stage of a person's life, in this case, a phase of the child's life. Ambuli means the moon, the Chanda Mama, or Ambuli Mama as we call it. So this is the phase of a child's life in which the child wants to play with the moon. So, and the mothers take advantage of that by trying to feed them their dinner, by inviting the moon to come over and play with the child. So this is about Ambuli Paruvam, this padigam called tanmugattu Chutti. Okay, so last time we got into the introduction. We will continue with the introduction today, and we'll give you an overall introduction to Yashoda Bhavam in general, and then we'll also give a particular introduction to this Ambuli Paruvam, and then we will go through the taniyans of periyAzhvAr Tirumuri, and if you have the time, we'll start going through the pasrams. Okay, so as usual, we will start with the Podu taniyans, so you can chant along with me. I'm just trying to get the Shruti set. One moment. Okay. Ramanuja Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanatharyam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Shri Shailesha Patram Dhi Bhaktyadi Gunarnavam Yatindra Pravanam Vande Ramyaja Mataram Munim Lakshmi Natha Samarambham Nathayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yugma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmad Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye Mata Pita Yuvatayastanaya Vibhuti Sarvam Yadeva Niyamena Madanvayanam Ahadyasya Nah Kulapaterva Kulabhirahamam Srimad Tadangri Yugalam Pranamami Mudna Bhutam Sarasya Mahadahvaya Bhattanata Shri Bhakti Sharakula Shekara Yogi Vahana Bhaktangri Renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimad Parankusha Munim Pranatosmi Nityam. Okay, so this is the slide that we covered last week. So we gave a brief introduction to Sri periyAzhvAr and his life. So we know that he was born and he lived in Srivilliputturu in the Pandya kingdom. And there was a particular episode in his life which will be highlighted in the taniyans as well. Namely, the Pandya king held a contest and invited all the learned people from the Pandya kingdom to come and talk about what is the most important thing in life so that he can prepare for the next life. And at the insistence of Emperuman, Sri periyAzhvAr appeared at the Pandya king's court, and he argued that Emperuman is the greatest thing, is the real thing, is the Adi Moolam, Adi Piran, if you will. And he did that by using the Vedas as the pramanam, as the authority. And he won the contest. So there was a prize money in a bundle that was kept by the Pandya king. I'll show you a little picture that's referred to as kiri. So you can see that kiri here. So the kiri is the little bundle, the cloth bundle in which the money, the gold coins is kept, and that was tied to a pole. And of course, when periyAzhvAr finished his argument saying that Emperman is the greatest thing and Sharanagati to him is the best way to get the best benefits beyond this life, and apparently the pole itself bent over and brought the kiri within his reach, and essentially indicating that Sri periyAzhvAr had won the contest. And then the Pandya king celebrated him by essentially taking him in a procession on the elephant, on the royal elephant. And that's when that's when periyAzhvAr saw Emperuman on the Garuda Vahanam. That's when he sang Pallandu, etc. But of course, Pallandu is not what we are going to cover in this particular padigam. We are going to cover something from the Yashoda Bhavam. But this incident in which he won the prize money, that is going to appear multiple times in the taniyans. Okay, so now an overall introduction to Yashoda Bhavam. So Bhavam in general means imagining oneself to be in a particular position, just that Nayika Bhavam means imagining oneself to be the Nayaki. Yashoda Bhavam means imagining oneself to be Yashoda, the mother of little Krishna. And one thing I should mention is that periyAzhvAr had a special liking for Krishna Avataram. So it turns out that we have 12 Arvars, and different Arvars had different favorite the different favorite states of Emperuman that they liked. For example, some of them liked the Vibhava Avatarams. Vibhava means where Emperuman came down to earth in an incarnation, like Krishna Avataram, Rama Avataram, Vamana Avataram, etc. And there may be others who may have preferred the Archavataram. For example, Archavataram is where Emperuman is visible in the form of a Vigraham or Murti in a temple, for example. So, for example, as I mentioned, that periyAzhvAr had a special liking for Krishna Avataram, and Nammarvar also similarly had a special liking for Krishna Avataram. In fact, here Nammarvar, Sri Nammarvar is referred to as Krishna Trishna Tattvam. Trishna means so liking or love for Krishna. So Krishna Trishna Tattvam, that was more or less the name given to Sri Nammarvar. Kulasekara Arvar had a special liking for the Rama Avataram. In fact, his Prabandham itself is called the Perumal Tirumuri. Perumal, in fact, we use the word Perumal in a generic way to refer to Emperuman, but Perumal in the narrow sense refers to Sri Rama. And of course, Kulasekara Arvar himself was referred to as Perumal, and so his Prabandham was referred to as Perumal Tirumuri. That's because of his special liking for Sri Rama. In fact, Kulasekara Arvar went to a kshetram called Tirukkannapuram, which is really a kshetram for Krishna, and there he imagined the deity, the Lord seated there to be Rama, and sang a lullaby for Rama. So you can see to what extent he really liked the Rama Avataram, that he was willing to go to the extent of going to a kshetram meant for Krishna and imagining the Lord there to be Sri Rama, and creating a lullaby for that Lord Rama there. Tirumangai Arvar, as I mentioned, he had a special liking for Archavataram. Tirumarisai Arvar is supposed to have liked the Antaryami state of Emperuman. Antaryami is where he is located inside us. Of course, he's inside all of us, but it usually takes a yogi to realize that, and Tirumarisai Arvar was a yogi in probably every sense of the word. So in that sense, he's said to have preferred the Antaryami state of Emperuman. But in any case, so different Arvars have different favorite states of Emperuman that they liked. And the Yashoda Bhavam, Yashoda of course appears in Krishna Avataram. And Yashoda is arguably the most enviable blessed mother. The Krishna was not even her birth child, and yet she got to enjoy Krishna. And of course, so that's a position that any mother would envy. And of course, there's a song by Papanasham Shivan which goes like Ennatavam Saidanai Yashoda, what penance, what great penance you must have done, Yashoda. Yengum nirai parabrahmam, so that is the parabrahmam who is everywhere. Yengum nirai parabrahmam, amma endarekka, unnai amma endru avan koopudum alavukku nee enna davam seidirukka vendum. He actually called you, the Sarveshwaran, the Lord of the universe, the father and mother of every one of us. He actually called you Amma. What a great honor that is, what a great privilege, what a great fortune that is, and so on. And then he goes on to say, Viramanam Indiranam Manadil Puramai Pulla, that is with Brahma and Indra being envious of you. Uralil Katti, Vaipotti, Kenjavaitai, Kannanai. So you tied him up to a mortar. Vaipati, you made him hold his mouth, and then Kenjavaita, you made him plead for mercy. Oh, what a great penance you must have done, Yashoda, etc. Okay, so that tells you that Yashoda was certainly a blessed mother, and so periyAzhvAr must have felt envious. So in some sense, he said, I cannot be Yashoda, but I may at least pretend to be Yashoda. So in that sense, he sang, or he composed these close to 250 pasurams in Yashoda Bhavam. By the way, talking about the number of pasurams, I think periyAzhvAr is probably the third most prolific of all the Azhvars. I think the Sri Nammalvar and Thirumangai-Azhvar, they have both composed about 1200 plus pasurams each. And then comes periyAzhvAr with something like 473 or so pasurams. So in that sense, he's the third most prolific Azhvar. But not that the number of pasurams has any special significance. You know, you can have someone like Thirupan Azhvar who composed only 10 pasurams, and still he is celebrated as much as any other Azhvar. So in that sense, I'm not trying to imply that the number of pasurams that they composed has something to do with their greatness, but it's more to give you some trivia information. So anyway, now Yashoda, if Yashoda is the most enviable, blessed mother in the world, obviously Devaki must be quite the opposite. And so I just wanted to show the contrast. While periyAzhvAr celebrated the position of Yashoda by imagining himself to be in her shoes, if you will, this Kulashekara Azhvar imagined himself to be in the shoes of Devaki, you know, that unfortunate mother who had to give up Krishna. So I just wanted to show you one small pasuram from Perumal Tirumari 7.1. So that's the Perumal Tirumari is the Prabandham written by Sri Kulashekara Azhvar. So there, Devaki sings a lullaby. Devaki, not Yashoda. Devaki sings a lullaby to Krishna. And you might say, how could that have happened? Devaki could not have sung a lullaby to Krishna because Krishna was taken away from her right after he was born, right? Well, you're right. So, but the lullaby that she sings is, so she sings that lullaby up to the fifth line here, and then she's going to say, I wish I could sing this lullaby to you, Krishna, but because of my karma, because of my bad karma, I'm not able to sing this lullaby to you. And am I not the most unfortunate mother in the whole world? So that's a very heart-rending padigam, this Perumal Tirumari 7. And the very first pasuram there, just to give you an example of what Devaki says she would have liked to sing as lullaby. Alai neer karumbu annavan talo. You are like karumbu, she says. So you are like sugar cane. So she says, and not only just any ordinary sugar cane, it's a long sugar cane. You know, the longer it is, the more sweetness there is. And not only that, it's fit for the factory. It's ripe enough for the factory. So it says, so she says in the first line of the lullaby, all I need karumbannavan talo. Talo means talelo, or go to sleep, a little one. That's what talelo means. And there she says, so, oh, sugar cane, sweet enough for the factory and long as well. Go to sleep, talelo. Ambuja tadam kanninan talo. Ambujam means the tamarapu, the lotus flower. Tadam means big, kanninan. Oh, one with lotus-like large eyes, talo or talelo. And then she says, Velai neer nirattu annavan talo. Velai means kadal or ocean. Water, neer is water, nirattu. So, oh, one who is blue as an ocean, oh, talo or talelo. And then she says, this is a beautiful phrase, Vera podagam, ni ennoda yana kutti illaya appdin solra. So that's what Devaki says, oh, ennoda yana kutti, ni thungda kanda, Vera podagam. Vera means yanai, podagam means kutti. So I like these these words of affection that mothers throw around in their lullaby. And you will see a lot of that in Yashoda Bhavam as well. And Devaki says, oh, enoda yana kuttiye, ni thungada kanna, vera podagam, oh, my little elephant, or my one who is like a little elephant to me, please go to sleep, talo or talelo. And then she says, Ela var kural yanmagan talo, oh my son, yanmagan, kural who has hair, who has var kural, long hair, Ela var kural, who has fragrant long hair, oh my beautiful son, please go to sleep, talo or talelo. And see, the quote ends there. So that's what she would have liked to sing, right from here to there. That's what she would have liked to sing. So she says here, Endrendru unnai en vaayidai niraya taal ulithidum thiruvanai illa thayirir kadai aayina thaye. She says, அப்படிதான் எனக்கு சொல்லணும், உனக்கு தாலாட்டு பாடணும்னு ஆசையா இருக்கு. என்றென்று means இப்படி, like this, etc. என்று உன்னை வாயிடை நிறைய, that is to the full satisfaction of my mouth. வாயிடை நிறைய means to the full satisfaction of my mouth. I would like to keep singing lullabies to you like this, but you know what? Taal ulithidum thiruvinai. There is a thiruvinai means the good fortune to sing that taalaattu. Taal means taalaattu. So taal ulithidum thiruvinai. There is a good fortune to sing that taalaattu. I don't have it. Illa. So you can see that's very heart-rending when Devaki says that. And then she goes on to say, Thayaril kadai ayina thaye. Among all the mothers, Thayargal ellarilum, kadai means kadaisi. And I'm the last one. Kadaisi ayina thaye. It means among all the mothers, I must be the last one. Last in the sense, the least fortunate, the most unfortunate. So she says, I must be the most unfortunate mother in the whole world. Am I not? That's what she's saying. It's very beautiful. So the reason I mentioned that is sometimes we celebrate the winners and we kind of overlook the losers. I don't mean to imply that Yashoda is a winner, that somehow she schemed or anything like that, nothing of that sort. She's a winner in the sense she got the good fortune of bringing up Krishna, even though she was the birth mother. But at the same time, there is this other person that in the corner of your heart, I would like you to think about, which is Devaki, who lost that pleasure. But Kulashekara Alvar was very kind enough to think of her and create a whole padigam, putting himself in her shoes. Okay. So anyway, that's Devaki's lament. But now we are back to the Yashoda Bhavam. Okay. So let's come to the periyAzhvAr's Yashoda Bhavam. Now, the one good thing about all the Divya Prabandhams is that the Divya Prabandhams are not only a piece of spiritual, their content is not just spiritual. They're also very beautiful literature. In other words, even an atheist, if they looked at the literary aspects of Divya Prabandham, he would be very much impressed by the Divya Prabandham. And in fact, that aspect is borne out here by this Yashoda Bhavam as well. This Yashoda Bhavam is a defining example of something in Tamil literature called Pillai Tamil. Now, the Tamil itself is a very beautiful, very ancient language, and the Tamil literature is extraordinarily ancient and extraordinarily rich. Now, one of the things about being an extraordinarily rich language, literature-wise, is that it has very beautiful classifications for the sub aspects of literature. In this particular case, the Pillai Tamil means child. Tamil means, of course, literature, if you will. So you can think of it as child literature. Well, what is child literature? Well, the child literature, Pillai Tamil, it talks about the childhood of a great person. Now, that person could be a human being, or it could be God or goddess, for example. And so it celebrates the various stages of childhood of that person. So that person must be a great, either a human being or a god, goddess. And that person, as he or she goes through various phases of his or her childhood, then celebrating those phases, that is called Pillai Tamil. Now, the Pillai Tamil is so well defined. For example, it tells you that if this person being celebrated is a male, then these are all the phases that you should celebrate. If the person is a female, these are all the phases you should celebrate. So these are very neatly defined in Pillai Tamil. And I would say that the Yashoda Bhavam of periyAzhvAr is the defining literature for that Pillai Tamil. So there are other examples of Pillai Tamil as well. For example, Madurai Meenakshi Ammai, on the Shaivite side, Madurai Meenakshi Ammai Pillai Tamil, written by Kumara Guruparar, who came several centuries after periyAzhvAr. And he also wrote another Pillai Tamil, which I haven't mentioned here, called Muthu Kumara Swami Pillai Tamil. I think before we are done with this periyAzhvAr's Yashoda Bhavam, I'll see if I can give you an example of one of these, the verses from either of these two Pillai Tamils. Okay. So the thing about Pillai Tamil is that it celebrates the various phases of a child's life, and that the child must be a famous person who did achieve something in their adulthood. But the thing is, when you are celebrating the childhood, if you go back to that particular time, obviously you won't have any knowledge of all the glorious things that person is going to do later as that person becomes an adult. But the beauty of Pillai Tamil is you are allowed to bring in all the great things that they will do later on in their life as well. It seems kind of paradoxical that you could bring in something that they would do later in their life and kind of glorify them by referring to that. But that's one of the beauties of Pillai Tamil as well. Okay, you will see that in Yashoda Bhavam as well. Now, there are various phases, and so I'm going to give you just a few examples of those phases from Yashoda Bhavam. Now, these are not complete by any means. This is not going to be an exhaustive list of all the phases. For example, there's a phase called Talattu Parvam. Talattu Parvam is where you sing lullaby to that child. That's a phase of that child's life. Ambuli Parvam, and which is this padigam that we are going to learn, is part of that Ambuli Parvam. And there is a one called Sengirai Parvam. And then I give a few examples on the next slide. But the point that I want to make is that I will just illustrate what the overall flavor of Yashoda Bhavam is like by taking some specific examples of these parvams and giving you examples of how Yashoda, that is periyAzhvAr in the guise of Yashoda, how he or she celebrates Sri Krishna's life. So, for example, in Talattu, Thiru Talattu Parvam, so there's a whole padigam devoted to that phase. So what periyAzhvAr does is that he will take a phase, a paruvam, and then he will write a whole padigam. Padigam would be about 10 to 11 pasurams in it. So he will write a whole padigam celebrating just that particular paruvam. So there are 10 or 11 pasurams celebrating the Talattu Parvam, and there are 10 or 11 pasurams celebrating the Ambuli Parvam, and then similarly 10 or 11 celebrating the Sengirai Parvam, etc. Okay, so I'll just give you a few examples of each of these parvams. So in the Talattu Parvam, Talattu means lullaby, so it's a phase in which the mothers would sing lullaby. The child is very young, so they'll put the child in a cradle, and then as they swing the cradle, they will sing a lullaby. And in this particular case, the lullaby that Yashoda sings, every verse, every pasuram of that lullaby will say something like, you know what, you have received a gift from so-and-so. And that so-and-so is not a humble person like you or me. It will be some great, great, great celebrity like Brahma or Shiva or Indra, etc. Okay? So, and then he will say, so he has given you this beautiful gift with so much love. Shouldn't you be happy about it? So please stop crying, O Krishna, and go to sleep. Okay, so with the very first pasuram, it says here, Manikam, I've left out the first line because I didn't have space there. It goes on to say, Manikam Katti, Vairam Idai Katti, Ani Punnal Seida Vanna Chirututtil, Peni Unakku Brahman Vadudandan, Manik Kuralane Thalelo, Ayamalandane Thalelo. So here Yashoda says, this is the very first pasuram of that Talattu, of that lullaby. She says, you know what, Krishna, the Brahma has given you a beautiful, beautiful gift. Brahman Vadudandan. What has he given? He has given a Sirut Thotil. He has given you a small cradle as a gift. Now, don't be fooled by what it says here, small Sirut Thotil, because it is made of gold. Ani Punnal Seida Vannat Sirut Thotil. He has given you a cradle made of gold. Peni Unakku. Peni means Virumbi Koduthirukan. Romba Asayoda Koduthirukan. Theriyuma unakku. உனக்குன்னு ஒரு தொட்டில் கொடுத்துருக்காண்டா, அதுவும் அந்த தொட்டில் வந்து சாதாரண தொட்டில் இல்ல, தங்க தொட்டில். அதுவும் வெறும் தங்க தொட்டில் மட்டுமல்ல. The first line, which I haven't shown here, it is studded with ruby and diamond. Manikam Katti, Vairam idaikette. So it's a gold cradle with ruby studded and diamond studded, etc. And romba aasayoda kuduthirukkan. So he's given it with great love for you. Mani Koralane Talelo. So Mani Koralane. Now she is referring to the Vamana Avataram. So you see, even though it's a little child, the beauty is that she also realizes this is not just an ordinary child. This is Emperuman. This is Sarveshwaran. This is the one who went through, who had this Vamana Avataram. Koralane means the short one. Mani means Manakan, Manavan, student. He was a student of Vedas. That little Brahmin, young Brahmin, who was that Vamanan. So Mani Koralane Talelo. So one who took the avataram of that short one, the Vamana avataram, who was the student of Vedas, the Brahmin student of Vedas. Talelo, please go to sleep. And in that same avataram, Vayyam Alandane, one who measured the world, Talelo, go to sleep. Okay. Now Brahman, the interesting thing, of course, is that Brahman, you might think of Yashoda saying, Yaru unaku gift kuduthirukka paru, Brahman Mama unaku gift kuduthirukka. But of course, Brahman Mama, I'm using the word Mama in a generic sense. Brahman is actually the child of Emperuman, right? So in fact, in Nanmugan Tiruvantadi, which is written by periyAzhvAr, he goes, the very first line says, Nanmuganai Narayanan Padaithan. Nanmugan, the four-faced one, Brahma, Avanai, him, he was created by Narayanan Padaithan. Sriman Narayanan created him. So that makes Brahma the child of Sriman Narayanan. Of course, Krishna is an incarnation. So when you look at it this way, where is this gift coming from? This gift is coming from a child of Emperuman, a child of Krishna, if you will. And so imagine that rather odd situation of a child giving a gift to the father, and that was celebrating the birth of that father, not celebrating a later birthday as an adult birthday, but celebrating the actual birth of the father. So that's interesting. So there's all of these anachronisms built into this Yashoda Bhavam. But anyway, so the Talatu Parum, she goes on to mention in the other pasarams other gifts that have come from Shiva, from Indra, etc. So in all of those pasarams, she will go on to say, well, aren't you happy that so-and-so has given this beautiful gift to you? So please stop crying, Krishna, and go to sleep. Okay, so that's the Talatu Parvam. Ambuli Parvam is this Parvam. We are going to talk about that in details, also very little here. Basically, in this Parvam, so we are going to, so here, the child is old enough to look at the moon, and with his little hands, he is able to say, "Va, va, 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 va," means come, 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 etc. So he would talk to the mother and say, give me that, get me that Ambuli Mama or Chanda Mama, etc. And usually mothers will take advantage of it. I don't know of any child, at least of my generation, that whose mother did not take advantage of that relationship with the Chanda Mama and use that to feed the child the dinner that the child would otherwise refuse to have. Okay, so in Ambuli Parvam, the child is usually either on the so the mother would lift the child and point to the moon, and the child would also point to the moon and say va va va, etc. So in this padigam, every verse is going to invite the moon to come and play with little Krishna. So here Yashoda says, Vittagan Venkadavanan Unnai Vidikindra Kaitalam Novame Ambuli Kadidu Odiva. This Vittagan, so this one of great wonder, Vittagan means one of great wonder, this Venkadavanan, so this one who is this Tiruvenkadamudayan, see, look at how she is referring to that little child, because she knows the secret about this little child, and at least the periyAzhvAr, as Yashoda does, Unnai Vilikindra, Unnai Kupudihindra, so he is calling you, this little Krishna is calling you, Kaitalam Novame, so he's calling you with his little hands, and this Sarveshwaran is calling you with his little hands. Are you going to let his hands hurt from repeatedly calling you without your responding? Kaitalam Novame. Novame means without hurting. So make sure that you don't make him keep on inviting you, keep on calling you, because that would hurt his little hand. So Ambuli or moon, Kadidu Odiva. Kadidu means Viraivaga Odiva. So come fast and play with him. He would love that very much. Okay. Sengirai Paruvam, this is another stage. Paruvam is to know at a certain stage in a child's life, the child is able to turn over. So imagine the child turning over and lying on his stomach. And then after maybe a couple of weeks or so, the child is able to lift his head and is also able to support himself while still lying on his tummy. He's able to support himself. You have to imagine this mentally. So the child is lying on his tummy. He's supporting himself with his two hands, forward stretched, and then he's able to lift his head. And then when he gets excited, he's going to throw his head back and forth, and at the same time lift his leg. So in that sense, he will rock in some sense. And that rocking is called Sengirai Paruvam. So the Pasaram will say, Sengirai Aduga Adugave. Aduga refers to that rocking, where the child would be in excitement, very happy, and so it'll be moving its head forward and backward, and you can see that the leg going up and down as well. So here Yashoda says, En avalam kalaivai Aduga Sengirai Yerulagum Udayai Aduga Adugave. So Sengirai Adugal means do that rocking back and forth. Yen avalam kalaivai. What a beautiful phrase. It says, she says to her son, "Oh, you who will remove all of my misery, all of my misfortune." Avalam means misery or misfortune. Or in fact, one who removes the misfortune of all the Bhagavatas in this world, all the beings of all the Bhutanam, all the beings of this world. So she's not just referring to Yen avalam kalaivai, the one who removes my misery. She says, one who removes the misery of everyone in this universe. Oh, go ahead and Aduga Sengirai, do that in a rocking back and forth. Yer Ulagum Udayai, one who rules all the seven worlds. Aduga Adugave. So to do that Sengirai Aduga. And then next is Chapani Paruvam. Again, these are not sequential. There are probably other stages that I've omitted, but I just wanted to give you a few examples. Chapani Parva means at a certain stage of the child's life, the child is able to sit, and then when he's excited, he might clap his hands. That clapping is called Chapani. So Chapani Parvam is that stage in which the child does that. It's interesting. Chapani sounds like a Tamil word, but Chapani actually comes from Sanskrit, because Pani means hand in Sanskrit. You may have heard of Sarangapani and Chakrapani, etc., the one who is holding the Sangam, the bow, the Chakram, the Sudarshana Chakram in his hand, that Pani. So that's what Pani means. You may have also heard of Pani Grahanam in wedding rituals. Pani Grahanam, hand, catching and holding. So catching and holding the hand, the groom catching and holding the bride's hand, that's called Pani Grahanam. So Pani means the hand, and Chapani, Saha Pani. Saha means together, right? Saha means what? Is a friend, with one who is together with you. So Saha Pani. So the keeping the hands together, that's what has become Chapani in Tamil. Okay. So Chapani is the phase of a child's life in which he is able to sit down and clap. And so this is a small example here. Here Yashoda is saying to Krishna, she's inviting him to clap. She says, Pandu Kanigonda Kaigala Chapani, Karungurar Kuttane Chapani. So she says, please do Chapani, please do clap. And then she refers to him this way. She says, Oh, Vamana Avataratu, நீ வந்து மகாபலி கிட்ட கை நீட்டி யாச்சகம் வாங்கிண்டியே, அந்த கையால சப்பானி கொட்டுடா Krishna. That's what she says. Pandu means once upon a time. Kani means yachagam, konda kaigalal. So with the same hands with which you got yachagam from the Mahabali Chakravarti, please, with those hands, do chapani for me. Isn't that beautiful? The powerful, at once you see two things that are in stark contrast with each other. The fact that this child was once the Vamana and was able to rise up and measure all three worlds, that's such a great power. And yet, at this time, he's just a little child. He's just learning how to clap, right? So that contrast between what he is capable of doing and what he seems to be at this time, that is brought out very beautifully. Pandu Kani Gonda Kaigalal Chapani, or Mahabaliyadam Yachagamagina Kaigalal Chapani Kuttuda, Karungurar Kuttane Chapani. See, Kuttane is another beautiful affectionate word. Kuttan means the small one. oh, enoda kuttanni. So, you hear mothers say that. So, karungurar kuttane shappani. Oh, kutta, who has this dark hair, karungurar kuttane shappani kuttuda, kayye tattuda. That's what Yashoda says, okay? So anyway, it's beautiful. You see a lot of that in Yashoda Bhavam, and that's what makes it beautiful. You see a mother's love, and in this case, not just the love, the fact that the child is special, in this Emperuman as well, that contrast between the Sarveshwaran that he is and what he seems to be, appears to be unable to do even some simple things, that contrast is very striking, and also it makes for very beautiful poetry. Talar nadai paruvam. Talar nadai means walk. Talar nadai means that the toddler's stage, where the unsteady walking stage. So here Yashoda says in one of several pastorams, she says, Tannetru maatralar talaigal meede talar nadai nadavano. So she says here, oh Krishna, please start walking, start toddling, if you will, because you see, there are many things you need to do. Tannetru maatralar talaigal meede talar nadai nadavano. So maatralar means enemies. Tannai edirkum enemies. So all the enemies who are opposed to you, you need to walk over their heads. Of course, it's almost like predicting you're going to walk on Kalinga's head. You're going to walk all over Kamsan's head, not in a literal sense, but in terms of defeating them. Right? So there are many people that you will be fighting later in your life, and you will have to walk all over their head. And as a result, for example, Kalingan, Kamsan, Shishupalan, Chanuran, Mushtigan, Kuvalayapidam, the elephant, Shakatasuran, Putanai, Keshi, Narakasuran, etc. Krishna Avataram is full of enemies fighting Krishna, right? So in that sense, there are so many enemies whose heads you have to walk all over. So could you please start walking? It's almost like a mother being concerned about her child not being able to walk yet. This has happened to several mothers that I know. A child may be slightly late in doing some of the things that children are supposed to do. And then the mothers start wondering and worrying, oh, is my child going to be able to do it at all? Or is he going to be not a normal child in some sense? So with that same kind of worry or concern, Yashoda says, oh, Krishna, or will he? So it's almost talking about him in a third person sense. Will he walk? Will he be able to walk? And that's what she's saying. Mire talar nadai nadavano. Will he or won't he be able to walk? And then she says, Tannetru maatralar talaigal meede. You have to walk over the heads of the enemies that will be fighting you. So please better start walking as soon as possible. And then Acho Paruvam. Acho Paruvam is a stage in which the mother or the father would call the child, and the child would come running and will come come running and give the mother or father a big hug. That Acho Paruvam, that coming to you running and giving you a big hug, that's called Acho Paruvam. And here she says, Chakkaram yendiya kaigalale vandu acho acho. Acho acho means come and hug me. Arat thaluvai vandu acho acho. You should read it as Chakkaram yendiya kaigalale vandu arat thaluvai. That's what it means. So with the hands that hold the chakra, you see again, she is now referring to him as Emperuman. With the hands that hold the powerful chakra, that is a terror to all the enemies. So with the beautiful hands, she says, kaigal, with the beautiful hands that hold that powerful chakra, vandu, odi vandu, acho acho, give me a hug, arat thaluvai. So give me a big hug, until I'm satisfied. Arat thaluvai. That until arat thaluvai means until I'm satisfied. Acho acho, come hug me. That's what she says. Okay, so it's beautiful. A mother wanting her child to come running and giving her a hug. And then Niratam, the child is giving the child a bath. She's calling the child to come and have a bath. And of course, it's almost a universal thing that the children don't enjoy a bath. And apparently Krishna was not an exception to that as well. So in the whole padigam, and every pasuram, Yashoda pleads with him, begs with him, and almost threatens him in some cases, and tells him all the things, all the people who will laugh at him if he doesn't take a bath. So, and then she would say, so because of that, you come and take a shower. And so that padigam, in fact, is used while doing Thirumanjanam for Perumal in various temples. So one example is that Siranda Nattrai Alardutrum in Badanal Pirar Munne. Marandum Vrayada Martin, Manjanam Adan Ivarai. So she says, Krishna, Manjanam Adan Varai. Manjanam Ada Varai means please come to have a bath. And she tries to reason with him. She says, you know what? I've been very considerate to you, and so please be considerate to me as well. How have I been considerate to you? I know that you have done a lot of bad things, mischievous things like stealing butter, etc. Right? So, but I'm not going out and complaining about that to the neighbors, because they would say, she's supposed to be the mother and she is complaining about her child. That's what people would say. Siranda Natrai, Natrai mean Nalla Thai, Uru Nalla Thai, who has the greatest significance to the child. So Siranda Natrai means to a child who is the one who is the most important, that is mother. So Siranda Natrai means the Thai, the mother, who is the most important to the child, and even she is alarthutrum. She is complaining about the child. That's what others would say if I complain to others about all the mischiefs that you do. Enbadanal, pirar munne marandum urayada mate. Because of that, I'm not going to talk about all the mischiefs you do, even absent-mindedly. Marandum urayada mate. Even absent-mindedly, I'm not going to talk about that, Krishna. And that's a great favor to you, isn't it? And therefore, couldn't you do me this little favor? Couldn't you please come and have a bath with me? So Manjanam Adani Varai. So that's beautiful. And then Puchudarita, there are just two more examples, and then I'll get to the Ambuli Paruam specifically. Puchudarita, even though Krishna is a little boy, mothers at that very young age, they enjoy putting flowers on the head of even the male child. And so here again, Yashoda does that. So she wants to put, strung flowers on his head. And so in one of those pasurams, she says, Allini vennai virunga. So look at the guilt feeling that she feels here. Allini vennai virunga. Ni paattu vennai starting irundha. Anjadu adiyen aditten. I beat you up, she says. She says, you were stealing butter. Because at one point, in one pasaram, she says, you know what, ever since you were born, I have not seen butter or milk or curd, because before I can eat any of those, you get to them, and therefore I've not seen any of those. She actually literally says, I've not seen any of those since you were born, because you constantly steal and eat them. But here she says, Allini vennai virunga, you steal butter. And not only that, you eat all of them. Alli means scooping up from the bottom. Ni vennai virunga, and you eat all of it. Anjadu adiyen aditten. So to punish you, anjadu, without any embarrassment, without any shame, without any reservation, adiyen aditten. This adiyen, she refers to her as adiyen, because now she sees her child as Lord. Adiyen aditten, I beat you, she says. You see the little the picture here where Yashoda runs after a little Krishna with a little stick. But she says here actually that I beat you. She doesn't say whether with her hand or with a stick. Anjadu adiyen aditten. And now she's overcome by a guilt feeling. So she indirectly says, I'm so sorry about that, Krishna. Manasuku romba kashtama irukku, Krishna, that when நான் அடித்தேன் என்பதனால் என் மனது ரொம்பவும் கஷ்டப்படுகிறது. ஆகையினால் இதை என்னை சமாதானப்படுத்துவதற்காக வேண்டி, couldn't you please come and wear this, let me do this favor to you, put this particular flower on your head. So I have this poo called Sengaranir poo. Remember, I think in the last week I said that periyAzhvAr, he did Pushpa Kainkaryam to Emperuman. So he knows all about flowers. So he can name all the flowers that grew in and around Sri Vaishnavite, for example. So here he mentions one particular flower, Sengaranir Shuttavarai, Thilliya Neeril Ezhunda. This Sengaranir was born in a pond, and Thilliya Neer, that pond has very clear water. That's how special this flower is. And please let me put that on your head, because I'm so overcome with guilt. I want to make up. So please come and let me take care of this of the guilt that I have from beating you. And finally, kapu idal. Kapu means a rakshay or something to protect a child from the evil eye, from drishti. So especially the Sandhya Kalam, when the day transitions into nighttime, that evening time, the Sandhi of the morning and evening, the night, that's called Sandhya Kalam. So that particular time is supposed to be very bad for children, in the sense that people can put drishti on a child. So she says here, mandril nillel andippodu. Andippodu means that evening time. Mandri means the corner, street corner, the intersection of streets. So Naduchandi in Tamil Silva. So Naduchandi is where you are visible to everybody in that village. So mandril nillel andippodu. So please don't stand in that Naduchandi, that busy intersection, andippodu, in the evening time, because that's when drishti might occur. Madil Thiruvellarai Nindrai. So now again she refers to him as Emperuman. Thiruvellarai Nindrai, or Perumal, who is in the Nindra Thirukolam in Thiruvellarai. So in Thiruvellarai, this Pundarikaksha Perumal is, you can see him here, along with Tayar Sameta Perumal. So Madil Thiruvellarai Nindrai. So she addresses him as Madil Thiruvellarai Nindrai. Madil means surrounded by high walls or prakarams that go around the sanctum sanctorum. Madil Thiruvellarai Nindrai mandril nillel andippodu. Please don't stand in the middle of the intersection in the evening time, because you might attract drishti. Nandrugandai, and then so na vandu unakku nalladhu solven Krishna. Whatever I say is for your good only. Nandrugandai, and then sollu naan unnai kaapidavaara. I want to put that rakshay or kapu on you. So please come as soon as possible. Okay. So anyway, these are intended to show you the various phases. Like I said, this is not an exhaustive list of all the phases, but at least you get some idea of all the parvams. Now, the beautiful thing about Yashoda Bhavam is that a mother, in the process of bringing up a child, undergoes all kinds of emotions. There is love, there is frustration, there's firmness, there's joy, there's concern. And in this case, there's an awareness that he's not an ordinary child, etc. So I'll just give you an example that makes Yashoda Bhavam interesting. Not all of them, in fact, most of them are outside of this particular padigam, but this is from the whole Yashoda Bhavam experience. So the mother's love, for example, she uses this Chellavartai, the pet word, kuttaneyo, godu galamudai kuttaneyo, kundraduttai, kudamadu kutta, Veda Purle and Venkadava Vittagane Inge Podaraye. So when neighbors are complaining to Yashoda about all the terrible things that Krishna is doing in their home, like stealing butter, etc. So Yashoda calls him home. She says, people are complaining about you, please come home. So there, at that point, she says here, oh, Godu Kalamudaya, oh, one who has all the desirable qualities that everyone should have, Kuttaneyo. So Kuttaneyo is that, just like the Vera Podam, Yana Kuttinu, Periya Solrar, Kulasekara Arvar Solva, the whole periyAzhvAr Solrar, Kuttaneyo Abdinne. So that Kuttaneyo, you will see several such pet words being used. So come here, Kundraduttai, Kudamadu Kutta, who is good with the part dance, part balancing dance, Veda Purule, the one who is the substance of all the Vedas, Yan Venkadava, Yan Thiruvengadamudayane, Vittagane could mean one who is of great wonder, or one who is the root of everything. Vittu, so that's another possible meaning. Inge Podaraye, Inge Vadakanna, please come here. And then there's one that where the mother's frustration shows, Yashoda's frustration shows. So here Yashoda says, you don't love me at all because I've been calling you for the last half an hour and you're not even taking note of that. And all the cows have come home from grazing and their udders are full with milk and they need relief. They need relief either by virtue of the calves getting to them and drinking milk from their udder, or by virtue of my going and milking them. But you're not letting me do either. I have to let the calves get to them, or I have to milk the cows. I'm not able to do either because I'm standing here calling you for the last half an hour. So she says here, Kandrugal illam pugundu kadarugindra pasu ellam. So all the pasus or cows have illam pugundu, have come home. Kandrugaloda illam, they come home where the calves are, and kadarugindra, because the udder is full, and so it needs relief. It's hurting. So the cows are moving just out of sheer pain They want a relief as quickly as possible, but I'm not able to do anything for them. Ellam kadarindra pasu ellam nindrivinde unnai kuvi nesamel ondrumillada. She says here, she first tries to make him feel guilty by saying all the cows are in great pain. Nindrivinde unnai kuvi. Nana orinju poita onna vandu கூட்டுண்டே இருக்கேன் பாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்றா. That's what she's saying. நின்று ஒழிந்தேன் உன்னை கூவி. I've been calling you all this time. நேசம் மேல் ஒன்றுமில்லாதா, என்கிட்ட கொஞ்சம் கூட அன்புன்னே இல்லாத பையனா இருக்கியே. So you seem to have absolutely no love for me. நேசம் மேல் ஒன்றுமில்லாதா, என்கிட்ட கொஞ்சம் கூட பாசம் இல்ல போல இருக்கே. That's what she's saying. So you can see the mother's frustration. So it's not all smooth sailing for Yashoda. And she's also being firm with him. For example, when she invites him to come and take a bath, she says, I'm not going to take any of your excuses. I'm going to insist that you come and take a bath, because I know what you will do. You will avoid having a bath, and with your body smelling of raw butter. The raw butter has a kind of an odor. So she's referring to that here. She says, "Vennai alainda kunungum." So that odor of raw butter that's on your body, and vilayadu purudiyum kundu. So all the dirt from playing on the streets, all that dirt is on your body. And I know that what you want to do is, without taking a bath, you just want to go, to sleep tonight on the bed, and then tinnana ivira unnai theitu kidakkamattiyan, and your body will be itching tonight, but then you will try to scratch your body, which is dirty, with this odor, and dirty with this dirt, and you will be scratching it against the bed. I certainly will not let you do that. Tinnana means certainly. Ivira tonight, unnai theitu kidakka, to allowing you to rub your body against the bed. Naan otten, I certainly will not do that. So you better come and take a bath, she says. So she is firm. So firmness, love, frustration, they're all part of a mother's job. Then mother's joy. So again, it's part of the Yashoda Bhavam. She talks about how beautiful it is when he smiles and when he laughs, and with his Thiruvai Amudam, the saliva of his mouth dripping from his mouth. Now she says that is very sweet. So this is a mother talking. She says, the saliva that drips from you, the Thiruvai Amudam that drips from your mouth. You know what it is like? It's like if I put the sugarcane juice in a pot, and suppose that pot developed a little crack. So that crack, from that crack, the sugarcane juice started oozing from it. Do you know how sweet that will be? That's what your vai amudam that is oozing out from your mouth is. Kannar kudam tirandar. Kannar means the sugarcane juice. Kudam means pot. Tirandar means if it developed a crack. Otturi, so it's like that. You're oozing. The vai amudam is oozing, and so that talks about how sweet that is. Gana gana sirithu. So your laughter is not muted. It's not like gana gana sirikran, and it's not muted at all. So it's very loud and it's very pleasing to the ears. Gana gana sirithu uvande, with happy face. Mun vandu nindru, you come in front of me, and muttam tarum. So you give me a kiss. She describes all the things that Krishna is doing, and so all of these things he does. My little Krishna does. And the En Mugilvannan, so the one who has the color of dark clouds, Thirumarvan, referring to him as Emperman, the one who has Sri Devi in his heart, Tannai Petrorku, Tanvai Amudam Tandu Ennai Tadippikkindran, to his parents. He gives his Thiruvai Amudam and Ennai Tadippikkindran. He brings my life back. That's what she's saying. Ennai Tadippikkindran. It's like a withered plant coming back to life. That's what she means here. Ennai Tadippikkindran, by virtue of being happy, by virtue of his laughter, by virtue of his Thiruvai Amudam, oozing out from his mouth and giving me a hug. Because of that, he brings so much joy to my life. So the mother's joy is also very visible in Yashoda Bhavam. And then I also already talked about a mother's concern about any delay in the development of a child. Is he going to walk or not? Why is he not walking when he's 8 or 9 months old, etc.? So she says here, Thannatru Matralar Tharaigal Meede Thalarnade Nadavano. Won't you be able to walk? I already talked about this particular phrase on a previous slide. And so that shows her, the mother's natural concern when any activity is even slightly delayed by, by a few days. And then she's constantly aware that he's not an ordinary child, because she's constantly referring to him by attributes of Emperuman, Kondalvanna, the old dark cloud-hued one, Inge Podaraye, please come. Kovil Pillai. Kovil, what does Kovil Pillai means? In the Vaishnava Paribhasha, Kovil in the generically means any temple, but Kovil in a specific sense means Srirangam. So Kovil Pillai means the one who resides in Srirangam. So Ranganatha, Kovil Pillai or Ranganatha Inge Podaraye, please come here. And he also mentions another Kshetram, another Divya Desam, Tendiraisur Tirupper Kedanda Tirunarana Inge Podaraye. So there's a Divya Desam called Tirupper Nagar, which is about 10 miles east of Srirangam. The Perumal there is Appa Kodattan. He's supposed to be very fond of Appam. And so they offer that for Thiruvaradhana there. Tendiraisur Tirupper Kedanda Tirunarana. Oh, one who lies in that Tirupper Nagar that is surrounded by Tiraisur Tirupper Nagar. So it's beautiful, it's surrounded by water. Inge Podaraye, referring to the water of the Kaveri River. Inge Podaraye, please come here. Okay, so the awareness that he is not an ordinary child, that is constantly with Yashoda. And also the pride of a mother. She says to all of her friends, oh, come and see my child. See how beautiful he is. And she says here, Mannum, Malayum, Kadalum, UlagezhvAr, Unnum, Tirattu. She talks about the Emperuman and what he does during the Pralaya Kalam. He swallows everything in this universe. Mannum, Malayum, Kadalum, UlagezhvAr, Unnum, Tirattu, Mahirndu. So this Pillai, this child is no ordinary child, she says. He is capable of eating the whole earth, the mountains, the seas, the 7 worlds. And he won't eat it just, oh my goodness, I'm in the process of doing this, I'm destroying the world. So he doesn't think of it that way. He almost enjoys it as if it's food. Unnum Tirattu, Mahirndu Unnum Pillaiki. So he does that because he's actually protecting the world by swallowing it. So he's actually very happy about it. That kind of a child is this child. He's no ordinary child. Vannam Elilgol Magara Kurai. You know what he's wearing? He's wearing Magara Kundalangal. Kundalam is a pendant that is used on the ears of a child. Magara Kundalangal. Magara means it has the shape of a fish. He's wearing Magara Kundalangal. See how beautiful they are. Vannam Elilgol Magara Kurai Vai. Thinnam irundava kaanire, eவ்வளவு அழகா இருக்கு பார்த்தேடா, வந்து பாருங்கோ. Seyilayil, oh ladies who are wearing red ornaments yourselves, vandu kaanire. So come and see how beautiful my son is with this Magara Kundalam. So you can see the pride about how beautiful the child is. And finally, she actually goes to bat for her child at times. In the sense that, little Krishna is not able to talk, right? The very young Krishna is not able to talk. So in those instances, she actually deals with the world around him. She gets things done for him. For example, in one particular Paruvam, Krishna, he wants to go after the calves along with other cow herds, and he wants a stick. He says, give me a stick so I can go after the calves and the cows. And Yashoda, of course, does not want him to do that. So what she does is she says, okay, you know what, I'll call the kakai, the crow, and ask him to bring a stick for you. And as soon as he does that, you can go after the calves and the cows, right? And of course, the little Krishna, being too young, he falls for it. Of course, you and I know that the crow is never going to bring that stick. But this is something to appease the child. I certainly want you to do that, want you to go after the cows and the calves, but I do need a stick for you, and I've placed an order with this crow. The kaka is like Amazon. I placed an order with that Amazon, and so as soon as the product is delivered, I will let you go after the cows and the calves, okay? And it's beautiful because in that case, the mother bats for the child. She's now talking to the crow, and she's saying, "Oh, crow, please bring that stick." Okay, and again, in a way, it's funny because when doing that, she's going to describe all the glory of Emperuman, and she's going to say he's Sarveshwaran, etc. How come that for a Sarveshwaran, somebody else will need to do the argument, do the lobbying for him, right? So anyway, so that contrast, that paradox, you can see that in many of the pastorals as well. So Yashoda does bad for her child. And the interesting thing is, he seems to be a helpless child at times, but he's also the supreme being at once. Okay, so he's a helpless child and a supreme being at once. It should be a supreme being at once. So in this particular case, where she says, or kol kunduva, bring a stick, O kakai, she refers to her son as Alatti Ilayan. See, the Vatapatra Shayi, the translation is this. So the one who sleeps on the banyan tree leaf, of course, during the time of Pralaya, that's my son. Aravin Anai Melan. So you see, he's that great Emperuman who rules the whole universe. And still he needs help from his mother to talk to the kakai and bring a stick. And he's still, despite being the ruler of the universe, he's still gullible enough to believe that the kakai will in fact bring that stick. Okay, Alatti Layan, Aravin Anai Melan. He sleeps on that Aravu, that Pambu, that Anantan in Tirupparkadal, Aravin Anai Melan. Neelak Kadalul Nedungalam Kanvalarndan, the same thing, Neelak Kadalul in the blue ocean, Nedungalam for a long time, Kanvalarndan. He has been sleeping on that blue ocean. Bala Prayate Partharku Arul Seida. So he refers to Parthan or Arjuna. She says the one who's been a friend with Arjuna right from childhood. Bala Prayate Partharku Arul Seida. The one who has blessed Arjuna right from childhood. Of course, this kind of anticipates the fact that he will be the Sarathi for Arjuna as he grows up as well. So in that sense, that clairvoyance, knowing what is going to happen in the future, that clairvoyance is also incorporated into that pasuram. Balaprayate Partharku Arul Seida, Kola Piranakku or Kol Kunduva, this beautiful child. Kola means beautiful, Piran means my lord. To that beautiful lord of mine, or Kol Kunduva, bring a beautiful stick, O crow. Kudandai Kidandarku or Kol Kunduva. This child, he is actually the Emperuman who is in this sleeping Kadanda Tirukolam in Tirukudandai. So that is Aravamada Perumal or Sarndapani. So Kudandai Kidandarku or Kol Kunduva. So he is the one, this child is also the one who is in the Kadanda Tirukolam in Tirukudandai or Kumbakonam. So for that great child, please be sure to bring a stick, okay? So that they can note the clairvoyance of Yashoda, and also note how the little Krishna is both the Supreme Lord, because he swallowed the whole universe during Pralaya Kalam, and a helpless child who needs his mom to coax a kakai into bringing him a stick. And he also believes that the crow will bring a stick, okay? Okay, so these are all meant to give you an idea of what you will see in general in Yashoda Bhavam. Now we want to get to this particular padigam, this Ambulik Parvam padigam, the one in which the moon is called, Chanda Mama or Ambuli Mama is called to come and play with little Krishna. Now you may ask, why did I choose this particular padigam to illustrate Yashoda Bhavam? The answer is that we are all familiar with Krishna, the mischievous child, the one who stole butter constantly, the one who stole young ladies' clothes and things of that sort. So we are all familiar with that Krishna, that mischievous child. But this particular padigam is about Krishna where he is too young to be mischievous. So in that sense, you can see that the role of the mother to a greater extent here. So the Yashodas, all the things that Yashoda does for Krishna is better brought out in a padigam like this, where Krishna is still too young to do much by himself. And of course, in this Ambuli Parvam, you will see that Yashoda is the one who is talking to the moon, and she is the one who will be saying, my son is calling you, moon, please come. And her tone will change gradually from being friendly to threatening, because the moon has not responded yet. So, for example, like I said here, Krishna, the mischievous child, is already well known. For example, in Uttukadu, Venkata Subbayar's song, Taye Yashoda undan Ayar Gulatudita, Mayan Gopala Krishnan, Sayim Jalatai Kelai. So there he says, Balan Endru Tavi Anaithen. I thought he was a child, so I went and hugged him and picked him up. Anaithayanai, the one who picked him up, the namely me. Malayittavan po, like my husband, as if he's my husband who married me by garlanding me on the occasion of the wedding. Vayil Muttamittandi, he kissed me on my lips. So that's how mischievous, how naughty little Krishna is. But you are all familiar with that aspect of Krishna. So I wanted to focus on Krishna, the helpless child, because you can see that paradox, the helpless child, or also the Sarveshwaran at the same time. And also that the mother's fierce loyalty to her child, because she is going to bat for him. She is going to make sure that the moon does not ignore her child. Okay, so that's the reason that I chose this particular padigam. Okay, now the tanmugattu. So it celebrates Ambuli Parvam. So this is specifically about this padigam. Now the moon is a beautiful thing for children. I mean, it's a beautiful thing for any of us, but particularly for children, it is probably the most fascinating object in the sky. Why do I say that? First of all, it's big, right? Of course, the sun is big as well, but the stars are not big. So in that sense, the moon is big. So it's a nice target to look at, right? And not only that, unlike the sun, it's cool. You can actually look at it. It's not harsh to the eyes, right? So the children can look at it. It's big enough for them to look at. And also it's changing shape all the time. And that makes it more interesting, right? It's a full moon today, and then it starts going down, and then all of a sudden you can't even see it at all, and then it starts growing again. So the fact that it's changing shape all the time, that also makes it more interesting for children. So at any given time of the night, you know, for example, if you go out at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., on some days that the moon will be on this particular part of the sky. At the same time, the next day it will be in a different part, etc. And on some days you won't even see it at all. So it's constantly changing shape, constantly changing its position at any given time of the evening. And all of these things make it interesting. So the children find it very attractive, very fascinating. And like I said, many a mother has taken advantage of it to feed the child with the dinner. And it's a celestial friend of children. You know, for example, all of us have grown up, or at least all of us of my generation have generally grown up with magazines like Ambuli Mama or Chanda Mama, etc. You know, that these are the names of the magazines themselves take advantage of what appeals to the children the most. Ambuli Mama, Chanda Mama. They contain stories meant for children, etc. And for people who are familiar with Tamil, that there's a nursery rhyme that says Nila Nila Vava Nilla Malu Odiva, etc. Again, it's a nursery rhyme in which the child calls out to the moon and says, "Come, play with me," etc. And as I've already mentioned, that the moon has helped millions of children eat food by serving as a diversion. Now, there's something about the word mama. Normally the word mama generically might mean uncle, as in, my neighbor is a mama as well. My father's brother would also be referred to as an uncle, but though not mama in Tamil. But the word mama specifically means a mother's brother. And of all the uncles, the mother's brother is supposed to be the most affectionate one. So in that sense, there's a reason that Ambuli Mama is called Ambuli Mama rather than Ambuli Periyappa or Ambuli Chittappa or anything of that sort, because he's a mama. He's supposed to be very affectionate towards the children. Remember that mamas have a very special role in Upanayanam and wedding rituals. They are supposed to give the shoulder. There is an actual, mama has to give tol. He has to give the shoulder. He has to take the Upanayanam, the boy on his shoulder. And similarly, at the time of the wedding, he's supposed to shoulder the knees, for example. So there's a special role that mamas are called upon to play, simply because they're supposed to be the most affectionate. In the olden days, mothers at the time of delivery would go to their would-be mothers would go to their mother's home for delivery, and therefore their brothers would be there right from the moment the child would be born. So perhaps that's one of the reasons why the child gets attracted to the mama, because the mama gets to see the child right from the day that the child is born. Okay. And of course, things may have changed because the customs have changed as well. but I want to emphasize the fact that he's an Ambuli Mama, not an Ambuli Chittappa or Ambuli Periyappa. Okay. And one thing you will see in this padigam is that the Yashoda's tone will gradually change. She will change from very friendly. She will say, "Oh, moon, please come. My son is calling you," etc. But towards the end, as the moon continues to ignore her call to come and play with Krishna, she is going to actually get threatening. She's going to say, "Arigundu unnai eriyum ayyuravillai." Ayyuravillai means there's no doubt at all in my mind. What is it that I don't have any doubt at all in my mind? Arigundu unnai eriyum. Do you think my child is an ordinary child? He has this very famous and the famous killer chakra, that Sudarshana chakra. That's what Ari is. With that, he is going to throw that Ari on you. And so she's going to say, "You think he's an ordinary child? Let me tell you what he did in a previous avatar." So it'll get very beautiful as Yashoda loses patience with the moon and gets to be in a more threatening mood with moon. So that tells you that the mother's fierce loyalty to the child. She wants that child to get the moon so that he can play with that child. Okay. So anyway, now the interesting thing about the moon is that I'm talking about the relationship between the moon and Krishna. Of course, Krishna is an incarnation of Emperman. And Emperman, of course, he created everything in the world. So he created me, he created you, etc. And certainly he created the Chanda Mama as well. He created the moon as well. So in a way, it's kind of odd for Emperman, who created the moon, to beg and plead for that moon to come and play with him, right? Because there's a special relationship. He's the one who created the moon in the first place. And in fact, there are two famous stories in our Vedas and Puranas about how the moon came about. According to one version, even in Purusha Suktam, which is the Vedic view of creation. So in Purusha Suktam, the way the world came about was that all the gods did a yajnam, and they used Emperman as the havish, the sacrificial offering. And when they did that yajnam, various things came out of that yajnam. All the things in the universe came out of that. And of course, one of the things that came out of that universe is the moon as well. For example, Yat Purushena Havishaha Deva Yajnamatanvata. So the Devas did Yajnam, Yat Purushena Havisha, using that Purusha, that supreme being, the cosmic being, as the Havish. They did an Yajnam. And then one by one, lots of things came out of that, came out of different parts of this Purusha. So for example, Chandrama Manaso Jataha, Chaksho Suryo Ajayata, Mukadindrascha Agnischa, Pranat Vayur Ajayata. So it says specifically, Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So that the Chandra, the moon, came out of Emperman's mind. So it talks about various objects that came out of different parts of the Supreme Being. So it says specifically, Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So the Chandra was born out of Emperman, out of his mind specifically. And similarly, Chaksho Suryo Ajayata, from his eyes, the Surya, the sun, was born. Mukhad Indrascha Agnischa, from his face, Indra and Agni were born. Pranat Vayur Ajayata, from his breath, from Prana, Vayur Ajayata, Vayu, the wind came out of it. But the bottom line is, the Emperman created that moon, at least according to Purusha Suktam, from that Yagam, and yet Emperman has to beg for his attention. There's also another story that talks about how the moon came about. When Emperman did that Samudra Manthan, that Vadavarayai, Mattaki, Vasugiyai, Nanaki, Kadalvandan, Pandurunal, Kadal Vairik, Kalakinaye, etc. So there, when they did that, when they churned the Parkadal, of course, that Parkadal with Mandara Malai as the churning rod, and the Vasuki, the serpent, as the snake. And then what happened was, so this, according to the legends, the Mandara Malai was brought by Emperman, Vasuki was brought by Emperman, and he also, because it started sinking, Mandara Malai started sinking, he also took the Kurma Avataram, the incarnation of the tortoise or turtle, and he supported that Mandara Malai. And according to the stories, his contribution didn't stop there. He actually, even though it seems like the asuras were on one side and the devas were on the other side and they churned the ocean, it was actually Emperuman who did all the work. He just gave them that credit. In fact, so when they did that, so one of the things that came out of that samudram was the Chandra. And not only that, Lakshmi came out of that as well. In fact, you will see in Ashtalakshmi Stotram, there's a reference to Chandra Sahodari, to Adi Lakshmi as Chandra Sahodari. And why is that? It's because she came out of it and the Chandra came out of it as well. And as a result, they're called brother and sister as well. Now, I think the point that I want to mention is that no matter how you look at it, the moon came out of the specific efforts of Emperuman, as of course all of us did. However, it has been pointed out very specifically by calling out the moon's name in various Puranas and slokas and so on. In fact, the Samudra Manthan was also done by Emperuman completely, says periyAzhvAr. periyAzhvAr says, Arangane Taranganir Kalangandru Kundusur Marangal Teya Manilam Kulunga Masunam Sulai Nerunga Ni Kadaindabodu Nindra Surar Ensaidar. So he says here, Nerunga Ni Kadaindabodu, you are the one who did the churning. Nindra Surar Ensaidar. In all the Devas and Asuras, in Ellarum Periya Surar Avarna Surala, in Tamil we say, more or less mockingly, sarcastically, we say, Periya Surana, that is, is he a great warrior? That's what we mean when we say, is he a great, mighty, almighty one? So in that same sarcastic tone, periyAzhvAr say, Nirungani Kadaindabode, Nirungani Ni Kadaindabode. He says, you churned the ocean, though he made it look like the Devas and Asuras did. Indra Sura didn't say that all those pretend mighty people, what did they do? They did nothing at all. But anyway, so the bottom line is that Samudra Manthan was the effort of Emperuman, and the moon came out of that. So in that sense, you can say that the moon has a very specific relationship to Emperuman. He should be grateful to Emperuman because after all, he's the one who gave birth to him. And yet, as you go through this padigam, you will see that Krishna has to beg for the attention, beg for attention from this moon, and then that makes it interesting. Okay, so we will go through that. Okay, so that's all the prelude. Now I've given you a very long introduction to both Yashoda Bhavam in general and this particular padigam. And so, given that I've given a long introductions, once we start going through the pasurams, we should be able to go through them quite fast, okay? Because there's no great philosophy in the pasurams. It is very touching, so it's very heartwarming. So you'll be able to understand it with your heart. So you don't have to use your intellect as much to understand this padigam. This is something that will touch your heart directly, and as a result, we will be able to go through the pasurams very quickly. And this is true even if we come back and do another padigam at a later time from Yashoda Bhavam. Then I won't have to give this long introduction again. I will just refer you to this introduction so that you can go back and look at it. And then I will simply start with this already taken for granted. Okay, now periyAzhvAr Tirumuri Taniyans. There are 3 Taniyans for periyAzhvAr. I'll try to teach at least one today. So the first Taniyan is composed by Sri Nathamuni. So this is a periyAzhvAr Taniyan. So it says here, Gurumukham Anadhitya Praha Vedana Sheshan Narapati Parikluttam Shulkam Adatu Kamaha Shasuram Amaravandyam Ranganathasya Sakshat Vijakula Tilakam Tam Vishnuchittam Namami. Okay. So what does it mean here? So it's going to refer to that incident in which periyAzhvAr went to the Pandya's court and explained using the Vedas as the pramanam, as the authority, that Emperuman is that supreme being, that Adi Piran, and that by surrendering to him, you will be ensuring that you have a good afterlife. Okay, so you see here. So let me go through the meaning in English here. Without learning anything from a guru, without learning the Vedas from a guru, this he refers to periyAzhvAr. He explained the Vedas very clearly, and he explained Sriman Narayanan as the supreme being, And he did that entirely without leaving anything unsaid, without leaving any remainder in the Pandya king's court. And why did he do that? Because he wanted to win at the insistence of Emperor, with the desire to win. The prize money arranged or established prominently by the Pandya king. And this periyAzhvAr, he is worthy of being worshipped by the Devas. And he is the actual father-in-law of the Lord of Sri Rangam. How so? Because the Ranganathar, he married Andal. And so to that extent, that makes Sri Andal's father, periyAzhvAr, the actual father-in-law of the Lord of Sri Rangam. And it goes on to say that this periyAzhvAr, he is the preeminent one among the Vedas reciting Brahmin community. And that Vishnu Chittar is another name for periyAzhvAr. And I bow to that periyAzhvAr, okay? So let's go through the word by word meaning. Guru Mukham Anaditya. Aditya means learning. Anaditya, without learning directly from Guru Mukham, from the mouth of a guru, from the face of a guru. So it goes on to say essentially that periyAzhvAr learned all the Vedas, etc., but not from a guru. He had Emperor's grace, so he knew it directly. Okay, Guru Mukham Anaditya. So without learning all these Vedas and these Pramanams, etc., from an actual guru. Praha, so Guru Mukham Anaditya, Praha Vedan Asheshan. Praha means he explained, he told. So he explained all the Vedas, Asheshan, all the Vedas, not only the Vedas, that Sriman Narayan is the supreme being in this universe. He explained that as well. Asheshan. Asheshan means without leaving any remainder. Ondrayum vittu vidamal. Now, Shesham means remainder, something that is left behind. For example, in Sraddhams, you may have come across the phrase Pitru Shesham. So, for example, the Katta is supposed to eat the Pitru Shesham. So, Pitru Shesham is what is left behind after the food has been given to the Pitru Swarupa Brahmins. Okay, so the Shesham essentially means what is left behind, the remainder. So, he's essentially saying that he didn't leave anything unsaid, he didn't leave anything unimportant, anything important unsaid. Everything that was needed to prove his point, he used that from the Vedas as his pramanam. And then where did he do that? Narapati Parikluptam, Narapati, a human king, Parikluptam. So Kluptam means established. So Parikluptam. So Klupta means established, Pariklupta means established prominently or brightly or famously, established well. So the Narapati, the Pandya king, had established, what had he established? A prize. Shulkam means prize. So to win that prize, so with a desire to win that, Shulkam adatu kama. Kamam, as you know, means desire. Adatu means to receive. So to receive that prize money, so with a desire to receive that prize money, he did that. He went to the Pandya's court and explained everything from the Vedas and how Emperor is the supreme being, etc. Swashuram Amaravandyam Ranganathasya Sakshat. Let's see the Amaravandyam part. Amara, the Devas, so he's Vandyam, so he's worshipped by the Devas. And then Ranganathasya, Ranganathanudeya, Sakshat, actual. Swashuram, he is the father-in-law. So Ranganathasya, Ranganathanudeya, Sakshat, actual, Swashuram, father-in-law. And he's also Dvija Kula Tilakam. Dvija Kulam means the Vedas reciting Kulam, which is the Brahmin community, Tilakam. So there are very few Brahmins among the Arvars. This periyAzhvAr is certainly one of them. And Tondaradi periyAzhvAr is supposed to be another. Madhurakavi Azhvar is another. So those are the three Brahmins. And of course, Andal was not really born to, biologically born to periyAzhvAr. So in that sense, you could argue, we really don't know what the kula she was born into, but you can say that because she was raised by Vishnu Chittar or periyAzhvAr, she was brought up as a Brahmin. But anyway, so those are the only Brahmins. But they just to say that it's not that the kulam is important. It's just that Brahmins are not the dominating ones among the Arvars. Okay, so Dvijakula Tilakam. So he's the preeminent one. He's the Tilakam of the Dvijakulam, and he's that Vishnu Chittam, that Vishnu Chittar. Namami, I bow to him. Okay. So it's a very simple taniyan. It's first of 3 taniyans. The other 2 are in Tamil. This one is in Sanskrit. So let me just tell you how to recite it. So I will recite it line by line, and then you can repeat after me, okay? Keeping yourself muted. Guru Mukham Anaditya Praha Vedana Sheshan. Guru Mukham Anaditya Praha Vedana Sheshan. Narapadi Parikluptam Shulkam Adatu Kamaha. Narapadi Parikluptam Shulkam Adatu Kamaha. Shashuram Amaravandyam Ranganathasya Sakshat. Shashuram Amaravandyam Ranganathasya Sakshat. Vijakula Tilakam Tam Vishnu Chittam Namami. Vijakula Tilakam Tam Vishnu Chittam Namami. So let's say the whole taniyan together. Guru Mukham Anaditya Praha Vedana Sheshan. Narapadi Parikluptam Shulkam Adatu Kamaha. Shasuram Amaravandyam Ranganathasya Sakshat. Vijakula Tilakam Tam Vishnu Chittam Namami. Okay, so that's the first taniyan. I think we will learn the other 2 taniyans in the next class. So I will just finish with the Charama Slokam. We'll go to the Charama Slokam slide. Okay, you can say the Charama Slokam along with me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vrajam. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaham. Mangalam koshalendraya mahaniya gunabdhaye chakravarti tanujaya sarvabhaumaya mangalam. Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu.